Okay. Thanks for joining us, everybody, tonight. Today is Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. It's just 6:30 p.m. And I think, Dan, since you were given the weather report, you might as well do the pledge.
Absolutely.
We just wait for Randy to put it up.
Okay.
If you can. Tell me I locked up.
No, you're not locked up.
Dan, we don't need a flag.
Okay, I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of
of the United States of America,
and to the
and to the
republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Good deal. Kind of sprung that on you, Randy. I'm sorry. Thanks for doing that.
everyone.
I'll see if I have a better connection tonight.
Okay,
Hey.
roll call then
Please.
will
Go ahead.
be trustee Marks,
Present,
trustee LaRue,
and in Marquette Township.
Yeah, here at Marquette Township,
trustee Everson,
Present here, Marquette Township.
trustee Winslow.
Here in Charlotte County.
Okay, treasurer Johnson,
Here in Nagani.
clerk Ratar is here in Marquette Township, and supervisor Durant.
Marquette Township, I'm here.
Okay, staff present is manager Kangas and our attorney Roger Zappa. And Mr. Bronken is here also. He's in the, I think he's on the, is he the library committee, I believe? Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, do we have any emails, Randy, from the public for public comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Cross that off. That takes us down to number 4. So the consent agenda tonight consists of approval of regular meeting minutes of February 16th, 2021. We have bills payable for checks in the amount of $101,503.06. We also have a budget amendment 2021-01, so Randy can read that. We have road committee agenda and the utility billing calendar, both for March of 21. And charter, no pay increase this time, just we got a franchise fee payment and a lineup change. So if we have approval for that.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll
I'll
second
support.
that.
Okay, Randy, do you want to do the roll call and the budget amendment?
Okay, just give me a minute here. A few people are joining in here.
Okay,
It's like the events committee is joining in, so that's good.
okay,
Okay, so the budget amendment, let me get to it here. The budget amendment is 2021-01, so it's the first one of the year. And the budget amendment highlight is the budget amendment is a result of approvals of the February 2nd, 2021 board meeting for the additional light poles and purchase of recycling carts. In addition, the February 16th, 2021 approval for civic clerk software, which will be financed by the deletion of the election budget. So, and we have a motion and a second.
Move to approve as presented.
Yeah, well, John, and I think John and Pete made the motion, right?
Ernie.
Oh, okay, John and Ernie then. And the roll call vote will be trustee Marks,
Yes,
trustee or treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
trustee LaRue,
Yes,
trustee Everson,
Yes,
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is yes, and supervisor Durant.
yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
all right, thanks for that. Then we need approval of the remainder of the agenda unless someone wants to make any changes.
I'll make a motion. We approve the rest of the agenda as printed.
Support.
Okay, roll call, Randy?
Okay, so trustee LaRue,
Yes, I,
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
yes,
trustee Everson,
Yes,
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
clerk Rattari's yes, and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Board Education. We don't have any privilege comment tonight, but I have a couple things to share with you. First, the census is done. I did a webinar with them to kind of like close our account, as it were. And I had to fill out some paperwork and send that in. They had just some half a dozen statistics for you. The census this year started in March, and it starts in Alaska, believe it or not, because they have to catch them while the weather is getting better. And 500,000 people were hired in the country to help with the census process, costing $500 million on education and outreach alone. And Michigan, 71.3% of everybody responded. Then they did have to go back to the other 22%, and 28%, and kind of reach them by hand, basically, pounding on the doors and stuff. But for the most part, 71% of the state reported on their own. In fact, in the first 2 weeks of the census, 25% of the country, responded without even having to be asked too much. So the census is done. There is a report that'll come out as to what that impact will be on our county and our state, and I'll get that for you when that comes out. The other thing that we're gonna have to, or I think we should think about, I mean, you guys can decide if you want to or not, but it's kind of important to look at the redistricting that's going to take place in the state. I did another webinar on that, and we do have some crazy things in the 109th district on the House side, and in the 101st district, or the 1st district in the federal side, congressional district. We are the largest, and I don't think you're going to be able to see this. We're the largest congressional district east of the Mississippi. And Representative Bergman has, this is 2 different maps, but he's got the whole UP and then the top part of the Lower Peninsula. So I did reach out to him to see if he wanted us to do anything about just keeping him in the UP, or if he thought that should be changed or not. I also checked, I haven't heard back from him, but I also checked with Representative Cambenzi, and she's not quite as worried. It's kind of funny because she has Marquette County, Schoolcraft County, Alger, and Luce counties, except for Ishpeming Township and Powell Township. So I
what?
thought was kind of,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
those townships are left out. She kind of attributes to her predecessor. She's not too concerned. I asked her if she thought that we should, really look into this and try to champion for her to get those 2 townships, because it's so odd. She said as long as the area is covered, she doesn't know that it's that important. But the biggest thing with the redistricting is, I think, that everybody needs to be aware. We're a little bit more protected because we are kind of in our own little spot. But what I'd like to do, there is somebody in the redistricting world that can come and talk to us with a brief presentation to see if this is something we want to try to educate the public on, or if we feel that this is not something we need to worry about. And I thought I had Oh, shoot. I was all set with that.
That'd be interesting, listen to.
Yeah, it's not a long presentation, but the importance of it, I had a website, darn it, I'm sorry, that people could, it's up to the public, it's not just the board side of it. It's almost like the census, because it does affect the outcome of elections and what happens in the country and in the state. I will get that for you. Let me look at it. And, oh, here it is. Here it is. Sorry. If you want to start preliminarily, the website is representable.org. Representable.org. Princeton University put it together, and there are, the webinar I did was with University of Michigan, and 61,000 people voted in the country to support or in the state, I'm sorry, to support the constitutional amendment. It's made up of 13 members. 4 of them are Democrats, 4 are Republicans, and then 5 are mixture, either no party affiliation or independent or grassroots or whatever. They just mix them up, anybody that applies. Now, these people will be getting wages, but this is just a short-term, like a part-time job for them. The meetings right now that this committee consists of, the 14 or 13 members, does meet every Thursday in the morning. Sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, and the schedule is on there. They're 3-hour meetings. And the other group that's involved with that, and we might remember from a few years ago, we had someone contact us from Voters Not Politicians. And they do have federal laws that they have to consider. They have to consider contiguous states. Communities of interest is where this falls to us a little bit more. If we had, say if Northern Michigan University was split, the voting district was split, like in Oakland County, that would be a concern, because if you were trying to apportion funds or millages, and then with the voting side of it, it's all split. There's no continuity. Another issue is like if we had a mobile home park, if that would be split. Sometimes Native American reservations are split when they're redistricted. So you can see how that could cause some issue with voting. So anyway, that's just a very loose discussion on how important redistricting is and what it's going to mean to the state and the county and the UP sometime this year. So I will get more information to you on that, something a little clearer. I'm just kind of choppy tonight because I didn't think I had my stuff with me. But if you think you'd like to spend 10 minutes listening to a presentation, I can arrange that for you. Because they're going to be starting in March. They're going to be doing meetings every Thursday. And like I say, they're 3 hours long. If you want to sit through those, it can give you kind of an idea, but try that website if you want. You can either go to U of M and they have the link there for it, or you can go to representable.org, REPRESENTABLE, representable.org. So those are the only 2 things I needed to share with you tonight. Any questions on that? Good deal. Community linkage, we don't have anything. Committee updates, we don't have anything from the board side of the committee updates, but we do have a small presentation discussion regarding the proposal by the events committee for 2021. We have that packet that they've outlined what they think we can try to accomplish this year, the timeframes, and the cost for any kind of promotional and radio advertising. We've got Todd Nordyke here and Randy Gerard. I think Mike Spring is here. You want to take the lead on this and kind of step through it? That's totally good with me.
I'll say something quickly and then I'll pass it off to Randy, but I have to show you my t-shirt a minute. What my wife just got me. Can you see that? John Kangas, can you read that?
Can't see it.
Looks like chicken pie,
Chicken pot pie.
chicken pot pie. Yeah.
Life is good. Doesn't that bring a smile to your face? That reminds me of the events committee. We have a lot of fun on the events committee. And as long as it's going to be fun, I think we'll keep doing it. And more importantly, I think we need a township t-shirt, but you know, chicken pot pie, life is good. How hilarious. But we will continue to represent the township in the highest, funnest way, in the most fun. We'll just have a good time and convey that it's a wonderful place to live, work, and play. Catch the vision, the fastest growing there is. Relocate. These themes will continue to come out in everything we do. And as long as it's fun, I think Pete will show up and John will show up and Randy will show up. And I definitely will as well. That's my take on it.
And if Todd is there, Bill Tibor is there too.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, the resources. Todd brings along with him a lot of resources. Just kind of our whole purpose for being with you this evening is to see what questions or concerns you might have with what was being proposed. At the last meeting when we had some discussion, basically we ran down, what the rationale was. And this all started a little over 10, almost 11 years ago now, with the very first session that we had at the Vanderboom School. And the whole idea was to try to address some of the concerns that the board had with regard of how do we communicate with our residents. They don't come to the meetings. We tried having a newsletter that worked and didn't work for different things, but it wasn't timely. Came out, quarterly, and it wasn't really timely with a lot of the events that we had. So this was a concept that we wanted to try and ignite some interest basically among the residents in getting out to meet their neighbors, to get involved with the township, to meet the township board members, since they weren't coming to meetings and weren't really responding to advertisements and things such as that. And like I said, that was 11 years ago, the very first one at the Vanderboom School. And since then, we've expanded. Obviously, we have 3 major events that we do each year. The first one in the year is the car show, which is Father's Day weekend. And by the way, I'm already getting people calling whether or not we're going to be having it this year. And what Todd and I had discussed, and I think I mentioned it with Pete as well, is possibly this year, because of the unknowns going on with the car show, that maybe we start initially, and we're kicking this around, with a virtual car show. In other words, I know sometimes Roger brings his Chrysler Imperial. He could send us in a picture of saying, yeah, if you have a car show, here's what I'm going to bring. And we can post that basically to start drumming up some interest to show what types of vehicles might be there in June, Father's Day weekend, for the car show. Kind of ignited a little bit since so many people are asking us about it.
Nice.
We are, as far as I know, the only or one of the very few of those kinds of shows that don't have an entry fee. A lot of people have to pay something to be in it to show their car off, and they want to do that. Ours is free, always has been. If we do anything, it's along the lines of helping out the local food pantries by having people bring canned goods or dry goods, and that's their entry fee to get in. They get a receipt, and that puts them into the drawing that we always have at the end of the car show, which usually has 100 or more different prizes that we give out on a drawing basis based on those people that have registered. But anyway, the whole idea was basically as a communication tool to be able to, as Todd mentioned, catch the vision basically for people to get involved with their township and their township government. We've kicked around the idea of expanding it beyond our major 3, the car show, the community day in August, and then the Christmas tree lighting in November, to try and keep a kind of a continuous fever going, basically, like every so often to have something happening. We've targeted the mall, which we all know needs help. It needs to have help getting traffic through it, getting traffic into it to make it viable again. We do have, through the efforts of your development staff, we do have some positive events coming up happening on a more permanent basis in the mall that will help. But every little bit that we think we can do to get people out and moving around within the confines that we currently have with the pandemic is good. So we put together this list of suggested events or planned events, basically for you to take a look at to consider. Heard that some board members had some questions or concerns, and we wanted to get that to you to get those addressed. So that's why we're here again this evening. And as Todd mentioned, the committee right now exists of himself, Trustee LaRue, Manager Kangas, and myself. We're the four that are basically doing the planning. So any questions, concerns, or issues that board members have, we're here to address for you.
So this is, we do this budgeted amount every year. Is it the total that's here, or John, do you have that actual amount?
It is the same budgeted amount as prior years, only it's an investment in more events. That's
Correct.
really what you have before you is a greater schedule for the same budget.
Okay.
And historically, where that figure comes from, we've annually budgeted previously about $12,500 a year. And what that does is that covers all of the costs of putting together and running the event, including the advertising. And we do mainly radio advertising. We make posters and have publications that are handed out as for instance, the Christmas event. We give printed notices to the school to pass out, the school districts to pass out to their students, so they're aware of it. We do flyers and posters for the 3 major events. But what you don't see is beyond the advertising costs is you don't see the other amenities that come into it. As for instance, Todd himself, basically for the Christmas tree, well, for all of the events, we utilize his trailer, his trip. What's the proper term? Stage trailer, the mobile stage. Let's put it that way. We utilize the mobile stage basically as kind of the centerpiece. Todd and his folks, his family members, and the other folks that come with him don't get paid. They come, that's part of the whole process. The Christmas tree, he basically uses his bucket truck and his trailer basically to transport the tree for us. Those are all things that are rolled into that 12.5. It's not just 12,500 with no plan basically. Now, on the other side of the coin, as John mentioned, it's actually kind of an investment because you do get refunds back. As for instance, Super One at all of our events up to this year, and we're not sure how they can do this year under the governor's restrictions, but they provide the food basically for the events. They sell it at a very reasonable price at the event, and they give us back their profit. They donate that back to the township, and it's not huge. It's in the neighborhood between $2,000 and $4,000 a year for all of the events that comes back into the township to be applied to future events. Lois keeps a separate account of those funds. The business association typically kicks in about $500 a year to cover some of the costs of the events as well. That goes into that fund to offset any additional costs. So it actually ends up costing you somewhere between $8,500 and $9,000 a year. Is the actual cost generally.
Okay. Tell us, Todd, a little bit how the advertising side goes, because you're talking about different kinds of promotions and so many times a day. For how long? When does it start beforehand? Or give us a little rundown on that.
Well, for example, we added an event, the home show coming up the end of, let's see, April. So we're, 8 weeks away, 7 weeks away. So what would happen tomorrow if you guys say yes tonight? There's already a poster that's been mocked up, and it says co-sponsored by Media Brew and Marquette Township and the Business Association. So there'd be a nice poster, and then the events committee would meet very soon and approve that. And then we create a radio ad, and usually we run 2, 4, 6 weeks out. And then if we were to invest $1,000 on the radio, we always get 2,000. Or if we invest 2,000, we get 4,000. So we always get a double bang. And then it hits 8 radio stations and websites. If you ever go on like Google and just Google Marquette Township, you'll be amazed at how many posts there are on sunny.fm, Sunny 1019. Sunny.fm has numerous posts. Sometimes it beats the township's actual website on the search engine. It's crazy, but there's so much news out there because everything gets looked at. So we do pre-promotion and we get on the radio, we do posters, and then we take a lot of pictures at these events and then do a news follow-up. So I guess each event you get about 8 weeks. And you just can't miss it because you drive to work every day, whether you leave in Ishpeming and come to work in Marquette or the township or something, you know, you're in your car and you might be on your cell phone, but you might be listening to the radio, but you're going to hear it because it runs multiple times a day. And the big three get a little more push, but we would get started like tomorrow or later this week or early next week for sure.
Okay. Since this is a budgeted amount, we don't need to approve the amount. We need to approve the process for this year. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Well, actually, as I understand it, the budget pretty much was adopted as it was put into place. And basically within that document, there's a breakout. It's under the help me, John, what is it? Community enhancement? It's under the appropriations. Community promotions. It's within the community promotions, and in community promotions, there is a definition, and you should have it on your printout that says what that total amount, not just the 12.5, but everything else that's in community promotions, how that's being spent. The 12.5 is the calculation that we made that covered all of the expected costs for all of those events. And as John mentioned, what we're doing is we are squeezing in some additional events that were not planned at the time the budget was put together. So those are being put in there and will be funded without any additional requests.
So my concern coming into this process is I did hear some concerns from board members about how the events money was being spent over the years. And when I saw this proposal from Todd at the events committee that we're going to not increase the budget, but increase the events that the budget will cover, I thought it would be good that the board see how the money is being spent moving forward in what I would consider to be a smarter fashion. We're using the money to cover more bases, really, and promote more events, and ultimately, hopefully, put the township on the map as a destination for events to bring more people here.
And that was the basic premise behind the Community Events Committee and the events that we do is basically to draw people into the township that might otherwise not come into the township, but to bring them in a casual, comfortable environment where they can bring their family and have some fun. There's not a lot of fun to be had this year. So, you know, it's interesting. I see that the city is again talking about some of the events as to whether or not they're going to be holding them. The Blueberry Fest for one, and a couple of others that have come up for discussion here just in the last week or so. And we're one of the few that are going forward doing events.
So far. Ernie?
Yeah, I've looked through it. I actually emailed John on I thought was on the events calendar, and I think it's well done, and hopefully it can all be pulled out, and that it's going to be quite a job considering we don't know what the future is going to bring as far as the coronavirus bit, and if people want to come out and do it. But I think you've laid out enough activities that hopefully we can put some of them together, and by the end of the summer they can come and do that. Looking at the recommended motion, I would like to make that motion, accept the 2021 events calendar as proposed by the events committee and authorize the expenditure of the budgeted funds for the revised schedule. I think it's very, very well done in that. And it's pushing the township out in the front of everybody else at this point in time. And if we can get that into the news outlets somehow or other, say what's happening in the township in the next 6 months, I think it's going to be positive for the township in that.
I'll support that motion.
Your
Did you
motion-
have a figure to put in there too, Ernie? The 12.5?
I was thinking about that, but it says authorize the expenditure of the budgeted funds, and the funds have been budgeted of $12,500. We can put that in there. That's no problem in that. We can include the dollar amount in there, and Randy.
Well, we don't. It's already in there, so
Yeah,
I don't need it.
okay.
Randy, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just Treasurer Johnson brings up a good point. And one of the things I failed to mention was, and some of you may know this already, but because of where we are in the pandemic and not really knowing what's happening with the governor's decrees and health department decrees and things such as that, we have alternative plans for each of these events. In other words, as a, for instance, for the Christmas tree lighting that we did, we had 3 different plans depending upon what the regulations were at the time on how we would accomplish it within the confines of spacing and masks and your traffic and everything else. So we do that. And that's one of the things that Pete, Todd, and John and I have been working on is what kinds of alternatives can we have, presuming the worst case scenario, and still have the event go forward. So we have 2 or 3 different options for each of these plans.
Then we bounce him
So
off
if our,
Pete, and he tells us if he thinks we can do it or not.
Correct.
Pete's our sounding board for safety.
if we, it looks like I'm,
Yeah, Lynn?
if we have this 8 weeks out, when do you stop the advertising if the event can't go on? How does that work?
As soon as, if it was to be a case where we absolutely could not do it in any fashion, then we would simply put out a notice and it would stop.
Okay. So we'll have to expend the funds until we know for sure the event can happen.
Correct.
Okay. Depending on the governor. Okay, Pete?
What we have to do, we have to take advantage of what we can do in the in our township. We don't have the lakes and we don't have a lot of things that we don't have, that other people have, but they are things we can do and we can do them good. I think every time we do something, we just have to get the advertising out to get the people into the township. And I think that's so important. And I've always wanted a ski hill or a ski ride for the kids or something, but we don't have water and we don't have the other one. So what we do well. So.
Okay. What else? Anything? We've got a motion and support.
Call for the
Go ahead.
vote.
Yep, go ahead, Randy.
So the motion is to approve the proposal by the events committee for the 2021 calendar, and the roll call vote is Treasurer Johnson.
Yes,
Clerk Atari is yes. Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee Marks,
Yes,
Trustee LaRue,
Yes,
and Supervisor Durant.
Yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
good. Thanks,
Thank
guys,
you.
for all that
Thank you
information.
for all your work.
Your hard work, yep.
Well, thank you. And we're only an email away too, Lynn, if you have ideas, we like ideas. Just lastly, we have Bill Tibor available too. He's filled out an application for both committees. So
Right.
sooner or later you can take a
Yep,
peek at
when I
that.
was pulling my stuff, I'll get a hold of him. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, just as a reminder too, for the public or anybody who listens to this later, we do have a couple openings on events on committee. Events is one of them. I mean, we can have as many people as we want on the events committee. And you don't have to sign up for a whole year or everything like that. It's not such a structured committee that somebody can't just come in and help with the car show or help with Christmas or, make a time donation of an hour or, send us a check for, Christmas, something like that. So you can participate any way you want, but we would appreciate any kind of boots on the ground type help. And if you want to come to a couple meetings, that would be awesome.
Mhm.
So we did put that in. It did get in the utility billing calendar on the back of this month. So hopefully we'll get some responses on that too. Okay, we're good? All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, next is our library report. Tom, you've been patient with going to meetings and coming here and going back and forth, and they're the wrong dates, and so we appreciate you coming in.
No problem, no problem. Good evening, everybody. It was a while back, I don't remember when it was exactly, but I remember there was a comment that whenever the library plans or does something, there's a lag before the township really learns about it. And then I started to think about that, and part of the reason is that the Township Advisory Committee only meets once a quarter, and you've been getting their minutes. So if you were waiting, you're learning it from them, they were anywhere from 2 weeks to several months old, which is kind of too late to actually give you your input. The library board meets monthly, so getting their minutes would help, but in the past, the board hasn't really published their minutes until they officially approve them at the next meeting. So even if we got those minutes after their approval, it would still be a delay of about 6 weeks. So I was the TAC representative last month at the library board meeting, and I explained that to them. And I said, maybe you could publish a draft of your minutes so that the township would get an idea of what's going on a little sooner. They'd like the idea and they agreed that they would do that. So they're publishing a draft. Lynn and I have to work out a process so that you'll get that in your packet and the rest of the township will get it. So I'll work with Andrea at the library to see how we can get that established. So
Great.
you should be, hopefully next month you'll be getting them in your packet so that it'll be 2 weeks old at that point. The board presentation, can I share my screen? Will that work?
Let me do that. Hold on, Tom. Let you do that.
Okay.
Should be able to now.
Okay, what do I have to do?
Should be a green button at the bottom of your screen. It says share screen.
Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah. And I'm going to see which screen I'm going to share. This one. You see it?
Yep.
Okay. So they presented their new event calendar, which I think is a pretty good improvement. So if this is the home page, you just go to events here. And what you see is the whole month worth of events by week. So people wanted to know what's going on at the library can come here. For instance, I've been participating in something called Great Decisions. And if you click on it, it tells you a little bit about it. This is a program that the library is putting on. They got some grant money and their own money, and they basically bought a bunch of these briefing books for participants. They bring a speaker in once a month, and then there's a discussion afterwards. And we discussed different foreign policy topics. The first one was global supply chains, and last month it was the Persian Gulf. Next, I'm looking forward to next month, it'll be Brexit. But anyway, people that want to find out what's going on at the library, this is probably the best way to do it. There's also a possibility that if you want to just narrow it down to say story time for kids, you can do that. And then you'll see just the things that you want to do if you're at home with your kids and you don't want them watching TV, you want to listen to a story instead, you can go to this site. So that's that.
Excellent.
Stop my sharing. And lastly, the library board is still looking for ways to provide more outreach to the townships. They want to see if there's some way they can bring their programming out to the townships, but they're struggling to try to figure out how that would be. They know they've done things like book drops and those sorts of things, but they're looking for any kind of suggestions on how they might be able to bring programming to the townships. So any ideas that you have, I'd be happy to bring back, but we need some ideas from folks.
I wonder if they could do some kind of a satellite, besides the book drop off, we had the box at the mall, something like if a business had room that they could share a corner, and maybe have a book of the week on a little shelf or something like that, with maybe library cards or, you know what I mean? Some kind of a satellite. And I don't know what type of business or you wouldn't want to do it in your home. And I guess I was thinking of that because they did that for a while at the mall when they were remodeling. So if each community could have some place, I mean, you could do it at the township hall. I don't know, it just kind of came to me. That would work somewhere.
So
Like
you're thinking primarily materials, books,
Whatever.
CDs, whatever. huh? Okay, I'll bring that up.
So this is Linda. I did participate in going to the mall with my grandchildren when they did some of the puppet shows and some of the other educational opportunities. You know, that might bring people to Marquette Township Hall if they would come and do an outreach program there. And you could get parents, younger people with their children to come and participate. So if they're truly able to do that, the kids really like the old puppet shows. You know, it's really an yeah. So maybe they would be able to do that once the COVID restrictions are somewhat lifted.
Yeah, they're looking for what they can do with their planning, and they're trying to plan now so when things do open up, they can do so. That's actually a good idea because they don't really need, what really they need is a room. And so we have a room.
We
So,
do.
Yeah.
And we probably could have some snacks like popcorn.
That would be a plus.
Yeah, the fire department has a machine.
Okay, good. Ernie?
Yeah, following up on Linda, my idea was, but when they used to have the kids area in the mall and then they moved it out. Once everything opens up and our township hall becomes available, maybe we can look at a monthly story hour for kids and that. How it would go, who knows? But it's one thing in getting them people into our township hall and getting them into the township and knowing what we have here and that.
Yep.
It's something to think about. It could be workable once a month to have story hour at the township hall and that.
Yeah. Good idea.
Even a book discussion for those of us that are a little bit older at the township hall would generate some people using the township hall as it was intended to be used for the community.
Well, people have been trying to do that for years too, get some cards.
Yeah, but book clubs are wonderful, and you know, people are lonesome.
You know, the library also puts on small concerts. I don't know if that would be, if you think that would be appropriate. I mean, I think it's something that one of the smaller groups could go into that room as well.
Mm-hmm.
They do it with the Carol Paul Memorial Trust that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the room standing, it'll hold, I think, Randy's gone, 150 people.
Yeah.
And I think 100 seated, so it's a good sized room, you know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have to be just, you know, a handful of people. Not do that now, you know, but.
Well, the
when
community
reality
room at
comes
the
back,
library
maybe.
is not much bigger than that. I think it's about the same size, to tell you the truth.
Okay. What else? Anything else for Tom?
Nope, that's it. Those are good ideas. I'll bring them back. We have a meeting, the TAC meeting meets tomorrow night, and then the board in a couple more weeks. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Excellent.
You bet.
Okay. Next up is draft committee reports. Tonight we had road committee minutes from January 5th and a little plethora of Iron Ore Heritage Rec Authority, their meeting agenda, some minutes from January 27th, balance sheet from January, general ledger of January, and their check detail for the last month. Next up is our discussion of future community room use. What a segue, hey? Talk about perfect. Mr. John, I think this falls to you to try to explain to the group what we're, not even what we're thinking or what we're trying to do, just to have the basic discussion.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is as we see the COVID numbers turning in a positive direction, you see the governor and her departments relaxing some of their orders. Excuse me, we are starting to get requests from private groups to have events in the community room. And I think we're at a point where we need to start considering how we reopen to the public. And there is a specific request for a private event later in March. Attorney Zappa has reviewed what the order states, and I think we can do it if we limit the number of people and require they follow the health department protocol of the time, whatever it is. Hopefully it'll even be better than it is today. And I think if that goes well, we can also consider reopening Township Hall to the public for conducting business as well. The governor did state today that she created a new work group that is studying the return to work procedures or how that would look. So I think really everything is heading in the right direction, and there's no better time than now to start talking about this and making sure that if we do allow one private group to try this late in March, if it goes well, we can start taking reservations for additional events, so long as everyone's comfortable with that.
I did.
Randy, what?
Yeah, I agree with the manager. This event in late in March could be a good trial event, and as long as they're making, as long as they're following the guidelines at the time, we're not on the hook. So, and we're not policing it either. We're just providing the facility. So, I agree with the manager. I think it's time to start moving in that direction. So.
And this is not a rented event. This is, it is private. It's not, so I guess I was thinking it's not an official hall rental if we find at the time we can't do that. Does that make sense? Or does it make a difference, I guess?
I don't know that it makes a difference. I mean, this particular event qualifies under the current policy of organizations that are able to use the facility at no cost. So it wouldn't fall under the true definition of a rental, but they would be reserving the space for a private event.
Okay.
And if you need
Sorry.
any legal interpretation on that, Attorney Zappa did look at the rules for event type, event centers and the like, I think is the language. Something along those lines.
Auditoriums and the like.
Okay, Pete?
Three things. Roger, what's our liability on that? The next thing was, I started before this all hit, they have some kind of a health fair for the residents and whoever wanted to come. And also a senior day, like Chocolate has it from 1 to 4 in the afternoon, and they have games and have little snacks and stuff like that. And just for the seniors in Marquette Township. And them are the three little things I'd like to get started, take another look at it again. But I had to make sure I get old enough before I can start working on the senior one. So I figure at 76, I think I'm okay. I can start working on that.
You're
But
there.
I just think the senior, they're sort of the forgotten group. We meet all the time, we talk, and we have a good time in that. And I think there are a lot more people out there that wouldn't mind coming up here, going over there. They play cards or talk and whatever. But I think it's a good way of tying our community together. A health fair would be. I'd have to start working with the hospital and different things like that. Have some blood checks. Maybe somebody from exercise facility, a physical therapist, would come in and just talk to them about exercising and stuff like that, and blood pressure and just stuff. I got a list at home about what I'd like to try. So, but them are sort of the three things I'd like to throw out there and just see if there's any interest in that from the board. Got to do it before I get too old.
I think what Pete brought up is great ideas. I think we first must kind of crawl a little bit to see if everything works out. And if it works out, then keep accelerating it until we got it fully open and meet the needs that we feel for our citizens in that.
Right.
So the only other consideration that we would ask you to think about is something that I will probably bring back to you at your next meeting, assuming you're okay with this. If we do start taking reservations for rentals, we will have additional cleaning costs.
Right.
I've asked Andy to try to calculate how much extra effort it's going to be to go through and clean that facility after every event. And we think we have a number, but we're not sure that it's tight enough yet. Yeah, but if you do feel comfortable with this, then we'll ask you to authorize a temporary fee increase to cover our cleaning costs after each event.
John, I think you have to add into there, John, a little extra because you're gonna have to sanitize it also.
That's
I think-
exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you got that out. Okay.
I have
think
no
that-
problem with that.
I think what John is asking, do we want to move forward with that request for the end of the month and that?
Yes.
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 Yes,
I think John can put together the protocol that they're going to have to meet.
Yeah, and if I need to, I will circle back with Attorney Zappa. I think he usually has a pretty good handle on where most of these things end up. So as far as the DHHS rules.
So I have a question. So we're gonna have additional costs and those people, these people, I'm assuming are not paying any costs.
This particular one, correct. This would be our pilot on returning to a pseudo-normal operation.
But we have currently have allowed people to use our township hall for no cost. And now we're going to incur a greater cost. Is it so bad to say to these groups now that they will have to pay? I'll just throw a number out, a $25 cleaning fee.
In some cases, I think that would be appropriate. In this case, I don't think we would get a positive response.
Yeah, but we're gonna pay more
Without
money.
divulging any more details.
Yeah, but it will cost us now to have them come.
Yep, I agree. And that's why I think we really need to see how it goes to determine whether or not it even makes sense to do this, given the current restrictions and the actual cost of
Yeah.
the
So this will be-
sanitizing. But I think everything's going in the right direction to try it.
So this will be a pilot, a test pilot.
Correct.
So, and really what a lot of the information is showing, the data is showing is that all this cleaning is not really needed anyways. Yeah, So it'll be interesting to see the outcome in the end. We hope we're here to see it, right? Okay.
John, go ahead.
I'll agree with one time that we don't charge people, but I'm not sure that the township should absorb the increased cost of cleaning for every user.
I agree.
Go ahead, John.
would we be asking for a retainer?
Not in this particular situation, no. We would basically be hosting the host community for the private event, really is about as much as I can say.
Okay. I don't want to have you divulge anything, but it seems to me that I don't think it would be a bad thought to have a retainer as a planned, acceptable thing to ask of somebody that's going to use the hall. It's in some ways, if you have the retainer, you might not need a fund. You may not need to establish a total amount to clean the place. The retainer would take care of it.
Yeah, so we do currently collect a security deposit with each rental fee.
Okay, that's good.
If it's a paid rental, we do. If it's not a paid rental, we do not. So there's a distinguishing difference there.
Well, and when we set this up, if you remember, and Linda wasn't here, but we do provide it like for the type of events that Pete was talking about. If it's something for the benefit of the community, if somebody wants to come in, the state police might come in and have a 1 hour luncheon meeting, or certain representatives and one of our elected officials come in and have something, when we've had our fearsome foursome come, we never charge people for that kind of stuff. So the only charging and where we'd have deposits and cleaning fees and that kind of stuff is for when we rent it. So we already do absorb an expense, and now it'll just be a little bit more for cleaning for the events that are community oriented and they're not for rentals. So I just want to make sure everybody kind of followed that. Pete?
Should I bring one thing up? Is John's very familiar with Chalky. When we have our Lions meeting down there, we put everything, all the chairs back, make sure nothing's on the floor, anything on the table, and we walk out, everything just like we came into it. Now, John, how much problems do you have down there when before when the seniors met and other groups? You've been down there, and they have other groups going in down there, and how much cleaning did they have after, if any?
It's the same pretty much anywhere. The small minority of people create all these rules for the majority, right? And you have one bad egg that leaves a mess. So now everyone's got to pay a security deposit in case they're that bad apple. That's pretty much how it was in Chocolate. It's how it was with the lodges up at Alqual and Ishpeming. And I'm sure that's how it is here with our community room.
I think if you just state on the agreement that they clean up after, and so that'll eliminate a lot of the
On there.
stuff like that. So
Yep, our agreement is pretty solid.
But that's rentals.
pardon me?
Yeah, that's when we rent it. It's all, that's
Even
all on the
that,
contract.
even if we don't rent it out, when they ask to have it, we have to have some kind of agreement that they'll leave it the way they found it.
And the people that aren't paying they come in and use it as it is. If they have to move tables, they put them back exactly the way they were when they came.
Right.
They're the same types of people as those of us that come here every day. They're just meeting in a different place because it's big enough for what they need. So.
All right.
And it's for the benefit of the township.
Well, maybe the days of the free rental are over with. Maybe we have to at least have a cleaning fee, if that's the way it's going to be. If we have to incur an expense to clean, even if it's not somebody that's renting it, then they're going to have to at least be willing to pay that cleaning fee.
I think the issue is the organizations that we don't charge a fee to don't have a budget to pay out of. That's the issue.
Mhm.
Well, see how it goes. See.
Yes, Roger.
Just one quick comment from 2 weeks ago when a couple of us met. Just today, the governor's new order changes the computation of how many people we could have in the community room. It was based on 20 people per 1,000 square feet. So we went and took all of those dimensions and measurements and made that calculation. Well, that's out the window now. It's up to 50% of the fire marshal determined capacity. And by the time the end of March rolls around and this event maybe does or maybe doesn't occur, it might be something different, although this is still scheduled to be in effect then, but who knows, it changes depending on the needs or circumstances. So.
Okay.
So
No.
under the last rule, it was about 40 people that we could accommodate. Under the new rule, you're probably not gonna see much more than that for this specific event anyway. So I think we're pretty safe there.
Just so long as we know what that number is, and it can be a local fire marshal determination. So that can be an internal Marquette Township fire marshal determination, basically under the code. Just so we know what that number is, since we're the host facility, so we can verify that compliance was met.
I think the question now is, do we have John move forward with this request and that?
I'd say yes.
Let's do a motion so we can have it in the record. That's just, it's
Hey,
easier
Lynn?
to, better for the manager to have that direction. Yep.
Hey, Lynn, is there any merit, say, if the organization is in a township, there'd be a less of a fee, or anyone outside to be a little more? Am I just, trying to come up with something that's not there?
Don't go there right now, Pete.
All right,
That's not, that's
It's a
what,
possibility, but not for this specific event.
all right.
yeah. I want to see if we want to start this first. I guess the other thing I'm not real clear on, and I don't know if it's the legal side or not, but how will we know? Because we're going to call this a test run. What's our criteria for not doing it again? How will we know exactly what we don't want to have happen?
We'll let
I
the
can
township
tell you
manager decide that.
The feedback would come directly from staff going through the room afterwards, whether or not they feel it's even worth the effort. And quite honestly,
So-
this might not be a good example, because based on what I know, it's probably going to be a bunch of very well-behaved adults. So I don't know that there's
So-
going to be any significant effort beyond sanitizing tables and chairs and then the bathrooms. So
Okay, so the criteria is the cleaning then? That's what you're saying?
I
If
think
it's
so.
too
because
much of an
that's-
issue, try to clean up? Okay, that's
Yep.
what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, and this event probably won't even use the
Okay.
kitchen either, so.
Why not? Okay. Can we have a motion then to direct the manager?
I will so move to direct the manager that he has the option to make it available to the nonprofit group using the protocol that's currently in effect at the time.
Or
That was John, okay. Anything else? Any other comments? Okay, roll call, please, Randy?
Okay, the motion will be to direct the manager to open the community room with the current directives in place to the private group. And the roll call vote is Treasurer Johnson,
Yes,
Trustee Marks,
yes,
Trustee Everson,
Yes,
Trustee Winslow. You're on mute, Linda.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes,
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Good, thank you. Do we want to? So we're gonna wait and see how this goes before we decide if we're going to open up the calendar, correct?
Yeah, now if we start getting phone calls for people wanting to reserve, get the best dates for graduation parties and all that, we'll probably take them with the disclaimer that we can't guarantee that we'll be able to let you have it if this doesn't go well. I don't want to turn away potential rentals while we experiment with a pilot project, knowing that everything seems to be working in our favor currently.
good observation.
Okay, so, yep.
Kind of a smart move.
In this event, In a couple, 3 weeks, John?
I don't
Or-
remember the exact date, but I think
don't
it's the last full week of March.
Okay, just so the board kind of knows when to.
And it's
Yeah.
probably a couple hour meeting, basically.
So we might have something back to the board the first meeting in April then, for, information wise.
Yep.
Okay. All right, then we're good. We can move on to the minimum bid for the surplus Impala. That falls to John.
Yeah, I saw John Mark's hand up on that. I don't know if he was gonna make a motion or. I can-
Are you on 9B?
Yep,
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we reduce the minimum accepted bid for the Chevy Impala from 5,000 to 3,000.
I'll support.
Okay, questions?
The only reason
Discussion?
we're doing this is because we got no bids at 5,000, so we lowered it to 3 to try to get some bids.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, two things. One, where did the $5,000, was that like an NADA Blue Book price that they came up with for 5,000?
Yep.
And secondly, where was it advertised?
on Facebook, the township website,
And on the door.
and on the door. Yep.
Did anybody ever like put it on Craigslist or, anything like that? I've
Craigslist,
sold
you
a
have to pay
ton
to
of-
advertise a car for sale now.
It's $5. I'll pay the $5 to put it on Craigslist. I think it's just a great avenue of advertising for selling a vehicle. It really is.
So I don't disagree with you. It's not that we didn't get interest. Interest we got was at a lower price. Basically, the people that said, yeah, I would buy it, but not for that much. So the word did get out.
Okay.
And another thing is too, Dan, is we did look, the Blue Book didn't take an account for the police package there. So if you go on the internet and look at police packages with those type of cars, we're right in the ballpark, so.
All right.
Roll call.
And I'm sure we're not gonna sell it for 3. I'm sure it's gonna be bid up from there, so.
Ask
Looks
for
great.
6.
Who wants to make a motion?
It's already done,
Oh, I didn't even write it down. Sorry.
but I gotta do a roll
Okay.
call on it yet. So the motion is to lower the bid for the surplus Impala from 5,000.
Probably because I'm cutting in and out and I missed it. I'm
Yeah, so
sorry.
the motion will be, Lynn, is to.
Go ahead, Randy.
The motion will be to lower the minimum bid from 5,000 to 3,000 on a surplus Impala. So roll call vote is trustee Marks,
Yes.
clerk Rattari is
Can you hear
yes,
me?
trustee Everson,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes,
and supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Consider education sessions with Susan Radwan. I told you we were going to start looking at strategic planning this year. And we also need to do something with the CIP and get that a little more established with the Planning Commission. So as I was going through all of my stuff, I started thinking that there were policies in place that we put in a binder that we are not doing. So I called Susan, and if you remember, she did our strategic planning a couple years for us and some individual board meetings as well. So I asked her about taking strategic planning and rolling it into the policy governance and looking at our policies and updating those and either eliminating the ones we're not doing or adding or editing or whatever it takes. So she gave me a grandiose proposal, quite a few $1,000s, and I talked to John at length, and then I called her back and I said, no, this is not what I'm thinking. She wanted to do 2 or 3 days of 8-hour sessions. And I said, we've already done this stuff. We just need a catch up, you know? And it's much easier for someone like her who knows exactly how to do this than for John and me to try to put it all together. So that's what we ended up with. See how much is in there. It just ends up being 90 minutes with, that's right, the third part of that stool, the third leg there is to have our joint meeting with the Planning Commission. Because we haven't done that in a couple years. And that's a policy that says, well, we need to do that. So that's where I was trying to roll this all into one. And if you remember our joint meetings, when we did strategic planning especially, we'd go to Lots Creek, and we'd have a lunch, and we'd have like the huge meeting with everybody, all of our committees. And everybody liked doing that because we had a chance to work together and plan. And out of that would come our CIP and our strategic plan. So Susan's come up with the, I don't know, John, I hadn't gotten back to you about whether you've gotten a day narrowed down from the board that this would work or some of our committees. We told the Planning Commission at their last meeting. I don't know where you are with that. We haven't talked today, really.
Yeah, so I had Andra send that email out with the request, and I have not touched base with her to see if she was getting the replies. I only received one, which isn't enough to really form a consensus, so.
Yeah, I only got one too. So what do you think, board? 90-minute session as a group, and then the board, another 90-minute session maybe. We'll see. I think she wanted to spend some time with John so that he would be kind of up to speed on our policies too. And it's a reasonable price. We have the money budget that we can use in the budget. John can go through that if you need specifics. Pete?
Before we spend any money, as far as I'm concerned, we should have a little special meeting ourselves and find out what went wrong before, why didn't we follow through on it, why didn't we do what we're supposed to be doing, and why are some of the other townships got out of it, and why are we trying to do something that we really don't have our hearts into it if we don't want to follow it, because we failed before, but what did we do wrong before? I think if we had a little session before we start committing ourselves, find out what happened, what didn't we do, why didn't we do it, and then decide if we want to spend the money and do something. But if we're not committed into it, you know, it's kind of hard, you know. I mean, it all sounded good when we first started getting into it, but then as we got into it, some boards are different, some are more hands-on and stuff like that. And it's once you get into it, you don't have it. You've got a certain way of doing it, and we didn't do it before. So why didn't we do it before? And I just think we should have a meeting to discuss that. And where do we get off the track, and how do we get back on, and then decide if we're going to do it, have her come and spend it $2,500. That's my own feeling.
Okay. John, you had your hand up first, I think. Go ahead, John.
I'm sorry. I think what Pete LaRue had to say is an accurate feeling of a number of the board members. I think that it would be wise to meet, if we're going to meet and talk about what it is that we didn't do the last time, We don't need an outside expert to help us with that. We can figure that out with just a conversation between the two boards, and maybe even a conversation with our own board in a private meeting. I think that before we start spending money to have an expert help us, we better establish what it is that we're really trying to do and make sure that we're not just doing what somebody else think we should do. I think we should be deciding amongst ourselves where we're headed.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, right now, I mean, I don't think 2,500 is not a lot of money, but in our budget right now, it is, I know we've got money set aside for education, for going to seminars and stuff like this, but it still is an amount of money that we just don't seem to have have the privilege of doing a lot of things. That for one, and for another, just personally myself, I don't have 4 days to do a 4-hour session. I just got a lot on my plate right now and I can't commit to that.
Okay. Let me back up a little bit. We went through policy governance, and this might answer some of Pete's questions. And we spent a couple years, I went through spreadsheets and calendars and tried to get you to look at the policies every month and tried to get the manager to fill out the policy governance reports. And all of that failed. Nobody wanted to participate. And I'm fine with that. I think policy governance is a good way to keep a changing board on task and connected to staff. If this board doesn't think so, then we need to scrap it because, excuse me, we have policies in place that we are not adhering to. If you want to do a work session and identify them and take them out of there, if you want to look at what the policies are and say, you know, this doesn't apply. We don't care if the manager has a spending limit. We don't care if the manager doesn't pay attention to the security of the funding. We don't care if blah, 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 blah. We can get rid of policy governance. We can get rid of the policies. Okay. But we need to decide how to do that. If we want to do, like I said, a work session, we need to think about what we're going to do in the next 5 years, 10 years. I have a list of 12 different things that we should be talking about going forward from the next 5 years to about 10 years out. We can't just sit here and not conduct business. We can't wait for things to happen and us to react. We have water issues, we have land issues, we have zoning issues, we have staff we need to take care of, we have storage we need to deal with, we have things we need to talk about, some of which ties into policy governance. That's the strategic planning side. We have the planning commission meeting we are required to conduct. So if you want to do that in a work session, I'm totally happy with that. If you want to do it at a board meeting, that's fine. But we have things we need to take care of. It's already March and the year's going to be gone before we know it and nothing's going to be done. We'll be coming on to the budget and we'll be saying, well, what are we going to do for capital improvement? Oh, I don't know. Did the planning commission put it together? Did the managers put their stuff in place? Oh, were we going to hire another person? Well, we didn't direct the manager to do that. We need to be a little more proactive about this stuff. We've been accused or extolled as being the most forward-thinking township in probably the state, if not the UP. So all I'm trying to do is push you guys into saying, we are going to do policy governance. We're not going to do it. We're going to put a strategic plan together. We're going to start thinking about the budget. Are we going to hire more people? Are we going to be back in the office? Are we going to do some storage? There's a lot of different things we need to figure out. So you tell me, and I told John, I said, we'll see what the Crazy Six decide they want to do, which direction. You just tell us and we'll make it happen. I just thought it'd be easier if Susan could organize it for us. If you don't want to do that, that's totally fine with me. And it's only 90 minutes, by the way. So Pete, go ahead.
We come a long way, Lynn. I mean, the way you said it is like, we're not doing any of it. I mean, the township has done very well in the past years. The policy governance is just another way of attaching the responsibility to it. You know, it's not that we're doing everything wrong or we're just going by the seat of our pants here. We have policies, we have budgets, we have planning and that, but there's a different way of doing things. And I'm just saying that we fell off the horse there somewhere along the line because we stopped doing it. You stopped doing it, other board members stopped doing it. And so I'm just saying, let's look at where do we go wrong and how can we do it, improve it, and then get back on the horse. That's what I'm saying. But don't spend the money before we're all ready to do it, because, you know, sometimes this board in the past has been pretty much hands-on and they want to do this and they get, you know, and you have to hold them back. That's not their job. That's not our job at the time. You know, we have a manager, we have a supervisor, and that's how the things works out. You know, you got ends and you got plans and stuff like that. You know, I got my book right here. You know, I was reading it last night, and I think if we just sit down, what it is, where do we go wrong, and how do we get back on it? Is it worth it to us? All right.
Yeah.
What we've been doing. That's my concern, Lynn. That's all.
Okay. Linda?
So here's the new board member. You know, I've not worked under policy governance. I have no idea. And so maybe just sharing some of the stuff with me and then my impression of what and how it has worked would be helpful. The other thing is there a monthly calendar that says what needs to be done every month? And maybe that needs to be brought to the front. And in this particular month, a line item on the agenda needs to say these things need to happen this month. And maybe you're all right, but I have no idea what you're talking about. How's that?
Yeah.
So I agree with Pete. Probably something that helps lead me in the right direction. And I can look at, in March, we need to have a meeting with the Planning Commission every March. And it's just set in stone. And you're talking about policies that are out there, Lynn. I don't know what they are. And it sounds like some of the policies weren't very well liked. You can do policy governance and take out the ones that didn't work and leave the ones that did, and then build from there. And is there a strategic plan? I don't know that. I'm not. And in defense of everyone here, we've not met in person. So it's really difficult on a Zoom meeting to get what you need because I can't run down to the office and give Linda Winslow what she needs. Okay, so I think the next couple months, when the governor decides that it's okay to meet in person and whatever, will make all this better. But I agree with Pete. Let's save the $2,500 till we're ready to move there. And Susan will be there. It's her job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I contacted her. She didn't contact me.
Yeah. And I do think that we need to meet with the Planning Commission, if for nothing else, so they know who everyone is. I'm not sure the other new planning commissioner along with me even knows what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, we have a little ways and a couple months.
Do you have well, they're going to start getting busy. That's the problem. They have site plans that are coming in next month.
And so maybe they have to add a couple extra meetings. That will work okay too. I mean, you know, sometimes you have to adjust what you are so set in stone with to work for who is wanting you to work with them.
No. Do you have a policy manual?
No.
You don't have the last strategic plan?
No.
Don't give it to her either.
Don't give it to me. And it's no one's fault, but you know, again, if we had met in person, you would have said more and John would have said more. And John John Kangas and I are really learning this job as we go. Yeah, so it's all okay, but I agree with Pete. Let's save our $2,500 for a little bit longer.
All right, would you be willing to do a work session to chew on this?
Yeah, I think
For an
that's
hour or
probably a
so?
good thing. Yeah, and I think what would be really great is if the governor allows us to meet in person.
We
I think
can.
that would be great.
We can do that now.
Yeah, there's,
Starting Friday, we can.
As of Friday, we can do that.
Yeah,
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 there's enough of us that we can.
yeah. And even if it's an hour before a scheduled meeting or an hour after a scheduled meeting, just tell me which way so I can make sure I eat.
Hey, Linda, can you make it here Friday?
I'm not coming till Sunday. And I think we should do it
I
on,
just got,
yeah, and I think we should do it on a day that we've already committed to. Dan, you would agree with that?
I know where you are and I'm just teasing you.
I just don't think we should have it in this conference room. I think John's got his budget cut pretty good because there's no damn heat in this conference room, John.
I bet not.
But I just, I was up last night looking at it and just say, okay, what would I do? Well, I would say, okay, what went wrong? How do we correct it before I start spending some money to have someone come in? I think we have to meet as a board member and just, we have to explain what it is and what we're looking at and how it works. And
Exactly.
where we went wrong and our obligation and as a board member. And because we turn it over to John, we can't just stick our nose into it. We have to leave him do it. Same thing with you. You tell us what to do and we have to sit back and wait. So in the planning, I think we do a good job as far as planning and that because our departments have their planning. John has a weekly meeting with his people, so he knows what's going on. So we're not just running in the dark, but sometimes there's a better way of doing it as far as recording things and keep on track. So that's all I'm saying then.
Okay. I know exactly what went wrong, but I'm not gonna spend the time right now. That's why.
Exactly. That's why I say we should have a meeting and let's develop it, and what went wrong and how we're gonna correct to do it and do all the board members, are they committed to making the changes and do it, So
Mhm.
that's all I said.
Excuse me. Do you want to try to meet next week in the community room?
That's up
An
to you.
hour and a half?
Good for me. Let me know a date and time.
Can you get all the information together?
the
And Linda
calendar?
don't have anything at all. So give her a little time to
Yeah,
read it. I'd probably go for 2 weeks so we can get the information out and those who don't have it anymore and Linda gets the time to
do it
read
by
hers.
next-
When you coming back, Linda?
Sunday.
Okay.
How does next Thursday or Friday work for you guys? Or Wednesday afternoon?
Is it
Just
gonna
looking
be,
at my calendar, Wednesday would be the best. Thursday and Friday look pretty tough.
Okay.
What are the dates?
Wednesday's the 10th.
I'm sorry?
Wednesday's the 10th.
11th, I can't. 11th, I have to get a back injection.
no,
That
Randy,
is okay with me.
is this
when-
gonna be in person or Zoom?
In person.
Well, we
You
can
can-
put you on Zoom, Ernie.
Yeah,
I'll be on Zoom, so.
We'd be
There you
at the
go.
What time, Lynn?
Randy, what's your schedule that Wednesday?
I'm off, so any time's good.
So,
Probably the afternoon's better.
yeah, afternoon for me too. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock,
Yeah, that's good.
2?
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock on Wednesday, the 10th for a work session. You're muted, Dan, if you were trying to say something.
No, I'm sorry. I was asking my wife what time the back injection was.
Sorry, okay. So 2 o'clock Wednesday, the 10th for a work session to discuss policy governance and do you want to make it specific, strategic planning?
And
Or
that's,
do you want to just
Just get into policy
board
governance.
policy? However you want to word it, Randy.
We don't want to get too involved in anything to start.
Yeah, I'll just
Yeah.
put it as policy governance.
Okay.
So I'll move to schedule a work session on March 10th, 2021, Wednesday at 2 o'clock to discuss policy governance.
I'll second it.
Okay.
and
Um,
that's without any outside.
right.
Right.
Yeah, just us. Who does not have their policy book?
I'll have to start
Besides
digging
Linda.
out for mine. I don't have them all anyways.
Okay, as far as you know, you don't
Give me
have
mine.
it. Well, yeah, Ernie, you, I'll have to just get one to you.
Mine's at the house. I don't know how to get it in that.
Yeah.
That's all right, I can get one for you.
Okay.
Pete, you think you don't have yours?
Yeah, I got partial of them, but it would have I need a complete one.
I was
threw
looking
too
for
much
mine
stuff
earlier
out.
We might
too.
just do,
I have it all, so I'll just email it out.
Dan.
yeah. Dan? Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was just looking for mine today. I don't know what the hell I did with it.
Okay. All right. We'll
You
just
should
get
be
it out to
reading that
everybody.
every day.
I know, I'm sorry.
See, I have mine with me and I have marks in it and I've got sticky notes on it and I do use it, but whatever.
See that, Lynn?
Good deal.
That's my reading from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock.
All right, then go ahead, Randy, with the roll call on the work session.
Okay, so the motion is to schedule the work session on the Wednesday, the 10th of March, 2021 at 2 o'clock. And it'll be for discussion of policy governance work session, and Clerk retires, yes. Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes,
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
supervisor Duran.
Oh, excuse me, yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
And that'll be in the community room?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So we'll do it as a, Ernie will have to Zoom anyway, so we'll have that Zoom option or whatever. We'll have to do both. Are we good?
We're good.
Okay,
I'm happy.
good deal. All right. Public comment, if we, do we have any emails or anything, Randy?
We do not.
Okay. That takes care of that. Any announcements from anybody tonight? Linda?
The planning commission met, and I just wanted to make note that there is a public hearing scheduled for March 24th at 7 p.m. regarding the special use permits for the medical marijuana provisioning center and the proposed adult use recreational marijuana retailer on the property. So for people who are interested, it is March 24th at 7 p.m. That's all correct, right, John Kangas? Oh,
I
maybe-
can't quote the dates, but yes.
But the date is correct,
Yeah,
because it's in my little packet here. But
It
yes,
would be two special use permits for one facility at the former KVIC gas station.
yes. Okay, just so the public knows.
Good deal. Any other announcements? Okay, managers report.
He's running to get his.
Sorry, the Fire department radio was going off in the background. You have my written report, but I think even more importantly, I wanted to mention the Personnel Committee met today, and they had 3 items on their agenda, which I did share with all of you this afternoon. They will come back to you next meeting for formal action. But even more importantly, you all need to be aware that Staff Planner Diedrichson has tendered his resignation, which is very unfortunate for us. He has really turned out to be what I would consider to be an all-star employee for the township. Our loss is going to be his new employer's gain. There's no doubt about that, because he is going to do well no matter where he goes or what he does. Big loss for us staff-wise. He'll be here through the end of the month, so I give him credit. He's giving us about 4 weeks to figure out where we're headed, what we're going to do. Part of what the Personnel Committee met about this afternoon is specifically related to that. So that's all part of what you will be hearing about again in 2 weeks. So excited for Ryan. I think he deserves any opportunity that comes his way, but very disappointed for our planning department. He was a great asset here.
So John, the Personnel Committee is coming with a recommendation, correct?
That is correct. There will be 3 recommendations for you to consider.
Okay, good.
And it looks like
Just so they know.
the chair of the Personnel Committee has his hand in the air. That's John.
Go ahead, John.
Lynn, the Personnel Committee met on these 3 issues, and we gave everything a lot of thought, and we had a lot of information on it. And these are issues that need to be addressed with some urgency. Whether or not you're going to wait for 2 weeks to discuss it, it's too bad, because we should have, if we could have, put it on tonight's agenda. Every one of these are an issue of great interest to the future of this township. And it's unfortunate.
No, when we
I know that there are
Sorry.
procedures that have to be followed, but it's unfortunate that we could not take this up tonight in this meeting. The membership of the Personnel Committee is made up of 3 township board members. All it would have taken is one more board member saying that person agreed with us, and we could have passed each of these without question. So it's unfortunate, for whatever reason, that we could not have them on tonight's agenda.
Because tonight's agenda was done Thursday, and we were unable to know when we could schedule the personnel meeting. We couldn't get everybody together.
Okay. We have on numerous occasions over my tenure on this board listened to added amendments, added items on the agenda, and they were not anywhere near as serious to the township as the 3 items that we took up today. It's just, it seems unusual that items that are of less importance were given the priority of being taken up with exception and put on the agenda.
Well, that's because they are of less importance. I've tried to make it my policy not to put very important things on the agenda at the last minute, because that's not fair to staff or the public to spring something on them at the last minute. If it's a
Now,
little
this,
more insignificant, I'm more likely to put it on.
it would be very difficult to say this was unfortunate to staff because it involved the staff.
Right,
It would be very unfortunate to say that it could not be done when it has been done. So
okay.
if we were going to talk about hiring Sue Randall, you'd have put that on the agenda in a heartbeat.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue, John. Sorry, we'll just agree to disagree. I don't want to spring serious things and put them on the agenda at the last minute. That's
I have
just-
to agree with John that we have put other things on the agenda. This was very important. And if anything comes later than Thursday for the agenda, don't plan on putting it on. Nothing. That's why we have the policy to have it on Thursday.
Right,
Okay,
and the meeting wasn't even set on Thursday. Your meeting today. We didn't know if we could get everybody together.
I understand
That's
that.
why.
But there have been other occasions, and 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, our last meeting was one occasion that we made an exception. All I'm saying is, we're not gonna do that anymore.
All right, that's enough of that. Let's think it through. Don't make dumb decisions.
Anything else for the manager?
I think I had a question for the manager. I think he did a good job on that water thing over there on US 41. He should be commended how they handled it. And I think that was great. You know, with Lenny gone, he stepped in and the crew took care of things. So I just don't understand exactly why it wasn't on the map for him to make it a lot easier for him. So that I don't understand. So
I can give you an educated guess, but I don't want to do it in this forum.
no, don't say nothing then.
Ernie?
Follow up a little on Pete and that, on the water thing. You have to look as to when it was actually done, the 1970s and that, and look at the township at that point in time. And then you have to go forward in that. We didn't have the facilities to monitor everything or to record everything. It was a whole different thing back in the early 70s and that, so. That's enough.
Anything else for the manager? Okay, Randy, would you want to review our motions, please?
Okay, so the first motion of the evening was to approve the consent agenda as presented. That was approved. The second motion was the approval of the agenda as presented. That was approved. Third motion was to approve the proposal by the events committee for the 2021 revised schedule, and that was approved. Fourth motion was to approve the use of the community room as a pilot project for that private event, and that was approved. The fifth motion was to lower the bid to 3,000 from 5,000 for the surplus Impala, and that was approved. And the sixth motion was to schedule a work session to talk about, the discussion will be about policy governance on Wednesday, the 10th of March, 2021 at 2 o'clock, and that was approved.
Good, thank you. So far then, all I have next agenda is the three recommendations from the Personnel Committee. Board member comment? Nothing? Okay, we just need one more motion then.
I move to adjourn.
I second it.
Okay, roll call?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Winslow,
Yes.
trustee Everson,
Yes?
trustee LaRue,
Yes.
trustee Marks,
Yes.
treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
supervisor Durant.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0, and I have 8:15 PM.
Sounds good. We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.